Thalara walked down the silent hallway of the holding cells. The walls were made of cold black stone that smelled of fire and metal. Each step she took echoed like a whisper from the past. Behind every door was a prisoner. Some wept, some cursed, some had already given up. She kept her eyes forward, her face calm, her heart still. But something inside her felt wrong. She was not supposed to feel, not here, not now, not for them. The last cell at the end of the row had no name, no file, no record. It was simply marked as specimen for 7. The guards had warned her that one is different. He stares too long. He does not speak, he does not beg. Thalara stopped in front of the cell and placed her hand on the glass panel. It scanned her touch and opened with a heavy sound. Inside was a human. He sat on the floor with his back against the wall. His hands were tied with old chains. His clothes were torn. His face was bruised. Edu looked up at her. His eyes were not full of fear, they were full of thought. Like he was trying to understand her. For a moment she just stood there, then she stepped inside. She expected him to move, to flinch, to crawl away like others did, but he stayed still. She spoke first. "What is your name?" He said nothing, just watched her. She tried again. "Do you understand math this time?" He nodded, slow and silent. "And why do you not answer?" She asked, waited before speaking. His voice was soft but steady. "Because you already know what you came to." Dash was not sure what he meant. He leaned forward slightly. "You are not here to ask, you are here to judge." Thalara felt a strange chill at his words. She was trained to be above emotion, to follow command without question. But now something was cracking inside. "Who are you?" she asked. Again human looked around the cell like the question was a joke. "Hey, I am no one, just another number. Another weak little creature from your list." Smiled, but the smile was not real, it was hollow. She turned her head slightly. "You think you are weak, you think humans are weak," answered without blinking. "That is what your people believe. Too small, too soft, too slow, and yet you are afraid of us." Thalara's eyes narrowed. "I am not afraid of Yao." Tilted his head. "Then why are your hands shaking?" She looked down. Her hand was trembling just a little, but enough anew to make her feel exposed. "This is not fear," she said. "This is confusion." Human raised an eyebrow. "Same thing, Semetimus." Thalara stepped closer. "You are not like the others." She looked up at her. "Neither are you." For a moment they said nothing. The air between them felt heavier than the chains around his wrists. She looked at the marks on his face, burns, cuts, some fresh, some old. "Woe did this to you?" She asked, smiled again, the kind of smile that hides pain. Of Ryan. "No, when I stopped counting." She had seen pain before she had caused it, but now it looked different. Now it looked real. Hast. "What happens next?" Thalara hesitated. "The Emperor gave the order. All prisoners must be cleared, no survivor. So you came here to kill me?" He Sage did not answer, but her silence was loud. He leaned back again. "Then do it. You do not need my name for that." Thalara's hands closed into fists, but she did not reach for her weapon. Instead she asked, "Why did you not beg? Why did you not scream like the others?" His eyes locked onto hers. "Because I knew someone would come. Someone who would look instead of turning away." She felt something shift inside her. Something she had buried long ago. "I do not know why I came into your cell," she said quietly. "Maybe you do," he replied. "You just forgot how to listen to your own voice." Suddenly an alarm sounded from the upper levels. Something was happening outside the prison. The guards began to move. Thalara turned toward the door, but then stopped. She looked back at him, his chains, his silence, his strength. Her hand moved without thinking. She pressed her personal code into the lock. The chains opened with a soft click. He looked at his free hands, then at her. "Why?" She answered without looking at him. "Because maybe you are not the only one in a cage." And she walked out. The door closed behind her. She did not look back, but she knew everything had changed. The command came through at dawn. Sharp, cold, final, clear the cages, no survivors, by order of Emperor Karen. Thalara stood in front of the screen. In her chamber the message glowed in red. No voice, just words, words that burned. Stared at the command, her hands behind her back, her jaw tight across. The palace guards began to prepare. They sharpened their weapons, charged their rifles, laughed. As they walked toward the holding cells, Thalara did not move. Her heart beat louder than the silence. In her room, memory of the human came back, his eyes, his words, his calm. "Because maybe you are not the only one." And the Kagesh shook her head, trying to push away the thought. But it stayed like a whisper inside her. Bonish stepped into her armor. Silver plates with the royal crest of House Velven, her people's symbol of power and pride. But it felt heavy today, too heavy, like she was carrying a leash. Walked toward the control tower where executions were prepared. Each prisoner had a number, a time, a place to die. Her assistant bowed as she entered, We are ready, just give the word. Thalara looked at the list on the screen. Each line blinked, each name faded. As orders were confirmed, scrolled down to the final row. Specimen 47, status pending. Paused her finger over the command button, then she turned around. I will handle the last one myself. The assistant looked confused but nodded and stepped back. Thalara left the tower, her boots echoing across the metal bridge. Guards saluted her, but she did not see them. Her mind was far ahead inside that cold, dark cell. She reached the holding area. Alarms were off, doors stood open, some cages were already empty. Smoke drifted through the hallways. She walked faster, her breath tight in her chest. Finally, she reached his door. The cell was dark, but he was still there, sitting in the same place. His hands free now, but still resting, and his laugh looked up, calm as ever. I thought you wouldn't come back, he said. He should not have, she replied, but you did. He answered. She stepped inside. The door slid closed behind Herdo. You know what they told me this morning, she asked. Let me guess, kill them all. No survivor. She nodded slowly. I smiled, his face bruised, but his spirit untouched. You are not going to do it, he said. Thalara stared at him. Why are you so sure? Because you're still here, and because you haven't even drawn your weapon. She looked at her hip. Her sword was still in its place, untouched. I do not know what I am doing, she whispered. Good, he said. That means you're finally thinking for yourself. She looked at him, really looked. He was just a human, small, not built like her people, not armored, not trained for war, but he had something stronger than steel, something louder than orders. Will you run if I let you go? She Asked stood up slowly. No, running would be pointless. They would catch me in minutes. Then what will you do? I will wait. You will decide. You always had the power, not me. Thalara walked closer to him. I could order a shuttle, smuggle you out, say you died in the fire. He shook his head. That lie would not last long. Then tell me what I should do, she said. Him at her eyes. Do what you were born to do, not what you were trained to do. A voice came from her, calm. Commander Vorak. He is arriving at the base within the Horde. Thalara's face turned pale. Vorak was known for his cruelty. His loyalty to the Emperor was blind, and his hatred for humans was deep. If he sees you here, she said, will kill me. Daniel finished the sentence. No, she said, he will kill us both, and you better decide soon, he said. The sound of ships landing filled the air. Engines screamed across the sky. The walls vibrated under the force. Time was running out. Thalara paced the cell, her mind racing. Every step felt like a choice, every breath like a battle. Daniel stepped closer, his voice calm. If you free me now, you will become a traitor. Your house will fall. Your name will be erased. She looked at him. Then I will fall with purpose, not live with Shemesh. Opened her communicator, voice low. Code 1070, clear access for one passenger. Human signature classified. The voice on the other end hesitated. Yes, my lady. Daniel looked at her. You are serious? She nodded. I am not doing this for you. I am doing this for myself. Smiled. That is enough. She handed him a cloak. Put this on. Do not speak to anyone. Do not stop for anything. Took the cloak and wrapped it around himself. For the first time, he looked small, just a shadow moving through the storms. They walked through the hall. Thalara felt eyes watching. She knew the walls had ears, but she kept her head high. She guided him through the side tunnels, past the old generators, into the underground launch bay. The shuttle waited, hidden, humming with quiet power. This is where we part, she said. Daniel looked at her. What is your name? She paused. No one ever asked her that, not like this. Thalara, daughter of House Velvin, smiled. Thank you. Thalara, daughter of Nokajia, stepped onto the ramp. The door closed behind him. The ship rose into the sky and vanished into the clouds. Thalara stood alone, smoke in her hair, ash on her hands. Behind her, footsteps approached. Commander Vorak had arrived. The ship shook as it crossed the upper clouds. Inside, Daniel sat still. His heart was racing, but his hands were steady. Looked out the small window. The alien world below was disappearing. A dark blue sky wrapped around him. He had escaped the cage, but the real test was still ahead. The control panel blinked in a language he could not read. The buttons were larger than his hands, the seat too wide for his body, the suit too loose for his Prometheus world was not made for humans. Everything was built for John. She reached for the panel, tried to guess the landing sequence. The ship was on autopilot, but something felt off. A warning light turned red. A sound beeped in short, sharp notes. He tapped the panel again. No response. Opened the storage box beside the seat. Inside was a translator chip, half broken, but still usable. Daniel connected it to his wrist. Calm. Suddenly, the system changed into basic text. Warning, rogue signature detected. Tracking activated. His face went pale. They were following him. Thalara had tried to protect him, but now she was in danger too. Stood up, and moved to the rear of the ship. There was an old toolkit hanging on the wall, rusty heavy, but familiar: wires, fuses, energy cells. He had seen these before in scrapyards. Back on Earth, I took a deep breath. Too big for me. But I will try. Open the access panel to the engine. Heat burst out like fire. From a dragon's mouth he coughed, wiped his face, and reached in. Piece by piece he disconnected the tracking device. It was connected to the main reactor. One wrong move, and the ship would explode. His fingers worked fast. Sweat ran down his back. He pulled a small wire. Then another. Silenceth warning lights turned off. The ship was no longer being tracked. Daniel leaned against the wall, his arms shaking thin. The ship voice returned. Approaching surface. Prepare for landing. Returned to the front and grabbed the controls. The planet below was green and wild. No cities, no towers, just nature. Aimed for a forest near the mountain edge. The ship slowed. Wings opened, wheels dropped. Landing was rough, but Safeth door opened with a long hiss. Daniel stepped out. The wind hit his face. The air smelled like rain and metal. He looked up at the sky. One more step forward, one more challenge ahead. Forest was thick, leaves as big as doors, roots like twisted ropes under his feet. Walked for hours, following the map Thalara had hidden in the ship. It led to an old outpost, a forgotten place from the early Warsh. Had marked it with a simple note: safe for now, stay quiet. Reached the outpost as the sun began to fall. It was a small bunker built into the side of a hill. He opened the door using the code she gave him. Inside, darkness, dust, but no Dangar. He sat on the floor, tired. Alana turned on the small screen inside the bunker. A communication feed opened. Waited, hoping she would appear, but the screen stayed dark. He looked around. Everything in this world was built for hands larger than his, for people taller than him. He felt like a child in a world of giants. But then he remembered her voice: do what you were born to do, not what you were trained to. Daniel stood up. He opened the terminal, rewired the panel, entered a custom code. Death screen flashed. Access granted. He started to gather files from the Empire network: old logs, ship paths, security records. He was not just hiding now, he was hunting information. Some files showed troop movement, others showed secret prisons. One file showed something Worsian. Image of Thalara marked as traitor, targeted for capture or death. Daniel's eyes burned. He gripped the side of the terminal. Saved me, now they want to erase her. Looked at the map, found the nearest rebel station. It was far across to moons and a dead sea. Too far, too dangerous, but he smiled still. I will try. The screen beeped again. A message came through. Unknown source. A message: content: do not trust anyone, they are already watching. She is alive, but not safe. Daniel stared at the words. No send her, no signal trail, but he knew in his heart it was from her. Shut down the system packed what he needed: a scanner, a fusion blade, a tool belt. Stepped back outside. Night had fallen. Stars covered the sky. One of them was her world, still burning. Was small in size, but not in wealth. Path ahead was wild, the shadows deep, but his feet did not stop. The cage could not hold him. The walls could not stop him. The fear could not break him. Whispered to the sky, maybe too small for your world, but I am here now, and I will not leave her behind. Then he began to walk alone, but not afraid. The royal ship landed with fire and thunder. Wings folded like blades and black flags marked the hull with blood-red symbols. Commander Vorak stepped out. His armor was sharp and dark, his eyes colder. Then Spacey did not smile, he did not speak. He walked through the base like he owned every stone. Guards followed him, silent, ready, afraid. Entered the hall of judgment where traitors were exposed and loyalty was measured by blood. Thalara stood inside, straight, calm, unmoving. Vorak looked at her like a wolf watching a bird with broken wings. Lady Thalara, you have been besish. Met his gaze without fear. He served the Empire, always have. He walked closer. Then why does one prisoner still remain unaccounted for? She answered with care. The records were damaged during the purge. One ship went missing. We are still searching. His eyes narrowed. Strange how that ship matches the exact model your family once owned. Coincidence, she replied. I do not believe in such things. Vorak said. Stepped even closer until they stood face to face. I are from House Velven, proud old, once loyal, but lately confused. I am loyal, she said again. Then prove it, he whispered. He handed her a small device. Press this, and the signal will shut down the rogue ship wherever it is. Thalara looked at the device in her hand. Small, cold, deadlish. Knew what it would do. It would freeze the ship in midair, exposed. Daniel and him. Vorak watched her like a hawk, waiting, measuring. She pressed the button. Screen blinked red. Then stop it, on, she said. Smiled, but it was not joy, it was control. Good now. You will lead the next raid yourself. Target rebel station on Vega 9 rumors. Say a human escaped there. She paused a beat too long. Vorik noticed that a problem he is no. She replied, I will gallop her that night in the shadows of her chamber. Thalara turned on her hidden calm device. She entered a code Daniel once gave her the line open static, then his voice seemed still here. He said her voice trembled. The no he suspects. Everything I had to trigger a fake signal. It was the only way. Neil answered, you bought us time. That is all we need. She whispered, they want to strike the rebel station. They think you are there. A will not be when they arrive, he said, but they will not leave empty-handed. Thalara asked, what are you planning? Daniil replied, not planning. Doink. Thalara closed the call and looked out her window. Stars shone like silent eyes, watching, judging. She closed her fists. He will not let you fight alone across the galaxy. Daniel stepped off a stolen cargo ship. The rebel outpost stood before him. Old walls, broken tech, but strong hearts. Insida met the leaders, told them what was coming. A fleet, a purge, and Vorik himself. They listened, some believed, some doubted. Own rebel spoke, you are just one man too small for a warden. Neil looked at the map, then at the wires, the towers, the weak spots. Maybe, but I know how to pull the right wires. That night, he and the engineers worked without rest. They planted traps, changed frequencies, moved weapons. Underground station became a maze of hidden firemen while Thalara sat in her warship surrounded by silence. She gave commands, but her mind was on Daniel. Vorik entered the command deck, still thinking about your prisoner. She answered without flinching, still thinking about the mission. Studied her again. You were born for this, do not forget. Thatch did not reply. Soon the warships entered orbit around Vega 9. Bellow. Daniel watched the sky turn red. They have arrived, he said. The rebels stood ready, some scared, some eager. Looked at the leader. When I give the signal, turn the tower lights to bluey blue. She is skedcows, that is the color. She will understand. The ships landed, troops rushed in, guns ready. But no one waited for them. No fire, no scream, no chouse, just silence. Then a tower light turned blue. Thalara saw it from her screen. She stood, eyes Wudesh, turned her ship against orders and flew toward the signal. Vorik's voice came through the comware. Are you going? She answered, following orders, destroying rebels. Growled, stay information. But she was already gone as her ship landed. Daniel stood waiting. He smiled, too big for me, he said. But I treed. Stepped out of the ship, looked at Hyman. You livid for now, he said. Sky roared again. More ships. Ari Vedvik had followed. Thalara turned to Daniel. We end this tonight. Nodded together. The sky burned above the rebel station. Thalara watched from the edge of the cliff. Her ship stood behind her, damaged, still smoking. Daniel stood beside her, dirt on his face, wounds on his arms, but his eyes clear, focused. Bellow. The army of Vorik moved like a dark wave. Soldiers in black armor marched across the rocks, weapons aimed, ships landing behind them. Thalara opened the comm link. No voice came through, only silence. She tried again, no answer. They have blocked the signals. Daniel said, that means they are ready to end this. She replied, turned to her. Aryush nodded. My house fell the moment I chose to free you. Daniel looked at her. They will come for you first, let them. She said, who walked to the control panel beside the old outpost gate, took out a small tool and began to work. What are you doing? She asked. I am setting a trap. The wires under the rock still connect to the fusion. Linish stepped closer. Those lines power the entire valley. Exactly, he sage paused. You want to destroy the whole field? Nodded. If they step into it, we bring it down. That will destroy everything, including us. Looked at her. If we lose this battle, there is no world left worth living. Inch said nothing, but did not stop him. Behind them the rebels gathered, a few dozen fighters, old rifles, broken armor, but eyes full of fire. Thalara faced them. This is not about victory, this is about choice. If we run, we live a little longer, but in chains. If we fight, we might fall, but with open eyes, with open hearts. Rebels raised their weapons, some shouted, some stood in silence, but no one left. Daniel returned. It is ready, Thalara asked. How do we trigger? I've handed her a small box. This button. She held it in her hand, felt its weight, its meaning. Then the alarms began. Vorik's troops had reached the outer ridge. Time slowed. Every step they took echoed through the ground. Thalara walked to the front. Daniel beside her. Commander Vorik rode a black hover unit, floating just above the rocks like a shadow with armor. Saw her, his face full of anger and something else. Pain. Lady Thalara, he shouted, daughter of Velvan, kneel, and I will make your end quick. She raised her voice. I am no longer your daughter. Stepped forward. Then you are nothing. Daniel spoke. That is where you are wrong. Vorik looked down. You, the little creature, you escaped once, but now You will be my example. Raised his hand, his troops aimed their weapons. Fire, he shouted. Bullets and beams flew through the air. Explosions lit the rocks. Smoke rose in waves. Thalara ran forward, sword in hand, striking like lightning. Daniel stayed behind, holding the box, waiting. The rebels charged, firing from behind cover, shouting, bleeding, refusing to fall. Vorik watched from above, his ship hovering like a beast. Smiled. You are losing. Daniel looked at Thalara. She was fighting 3 soldiers at once, still standing, still moving. Then he saw it, more troops entering the field. The trap Zana pressed. The buttoned ground shook. Lights burst from under the rocks. A wave of heat exploded into the sky. Field broke. The soldiers fell. Their weapons melted in their hands. Vorik screamed, "What have you done?" Daniel dropped the empty box. "Just fixed what you broke." Vorik flew his ship toward Daniel. Laser beams firing from the side. As Thalara saw it, ran faster than ever before. Her armor cracking under the weight, leapt in front of Daniel, raised her sword, and deflected the beamed energy through her back. She hit the ground hard. Daniel ran to her, blood on her lips, eyes open, breathing slow. "You came back," he said together. She whispered. Vorik landed his ship, walked out with a burning sword, pointed it at them. This ends. No. Thalara stood up again, barely, but strong enough, faced him. "No, this begins now." The rebels rose again. More fighters joined from the caves, from the hillside by one. They stood behind Hirevan with the fire, even with the deaths. Raised her sword. "This is for my house, this is for my choice, and for him," she added. Vorik charged, met him head on. Their blades clashed, light against shadow. Daniel watched, ready to step in, but something told him not. This was her fight. After a long moment, Vorik fell, his armor broken, his pride gone. Thalara dropped her sword and walked away. Daniel caught her before she fell again. "You did it," he said. "No," she replied, "we did behind them." The rebels began to cheer, but Thalara looked up at the sky. "They will send more," she said. "Let them." Daniel answered, "House Velven has fallen, but something stronger now stands in its place. Not blood, not title, but truth." The smoke had not cleared yet, but the sound of footsteps had changed it. It was no longer the march of the enemy. Now it was the sound of survivors, of those who refused to stay silent. Thalara sat on a broken stone, her arm wrapped in cloth, her body bruised, but her eyes full of fire. Daniel stood beside her, his shirt torn, his hands covered in black dust, but he was smiling. They looked around the battlefield, where rebels were now lifting each other, tending to the wounded, and collecting what remained of Vorik's army. Field was still hot from the explosion, but the fear was gone. Daniel took a deep breath, then turned to the crowd. He climbed on top of a large metal crate. The platform groaned under his weight, too big for him, but it held. Rebels from all sides began to gather, their voices low, curious, waiting. Who raised his hand? He was not supposed to be here. He said. His voice echoed across the broken valley. "Came from a world that your empire tried to crush. They called us weak, they called us small, but here I stand." Looked over the crowd. They were listening, eyes wide, breath held. "You have been ruled by fear, by blood, by names you did not choose, but I say no more. You may see me as just one man, a human, a prisoner, a mistake, but today you see me free, and if I can break my cage, so can you." Murmurs moved through the crowd. Heads began to nod, pointed to the sky. "The empire lives up there in towers that do not bend, but towers do fall. One brick at a time, and each of you right now is a brick of truth, of defiance, of courage. You are not too small, you are exactly the size this war needs." And rebel stepped forward, a woman with metal plates on her chest. "Then what do we do next?" she asked. Daniel looked at her. "We take the story to the stars." Another voice spoke from the crowd, "But they control the channels, the networks, the message." "Not for long," Daniel replied. Turned to Thalara. She nodded. She understood what he was about to do. Walked to the old tower, the one that still had a direct beam to the outer signal lines. It was broken, rusty, unstable, but Daniel followed her without further. Climbed together, step by step. The wind howled, the metal creaked, the stars watched at the top. Daniel opened the control panel, connected the core from his stolen communicator, attached the wires. "Breathe deep, this may burn out the whole tower." Thalara said. "Then let it burn," he replied. He tapped a key. The screen came to life, looked into the lens. His face dirty, his eyes sharp, spoke. "This message is for every ear, across every moon, every ship, every world. My name is Daniel Reed. I am human. I was a prisoner. Now I am a witness. The empire has lied. It has ruled through silence, through power, through fear. But that ends today. We are no longer shadows. We are light. We are sound. We are truth." Paused, let the words settle, and continued on. "Commander fell today. Vorik killed not By force but by choice be the voice of a woman who said no, who refused to kneel at Thalara of House Velven she stood, with us not because of blood, but because of belief if she can rise. So can you join us, speak, move, push the wall, even if you are small. Even if they call you weak, we are done waiting. Handed the transmission tower, sparked the signal. Spread like fire across satellite ships, received it, hidden networks copied it. Even enemy posts could not block it. In time, the image of Daniel's face, of Thalara's sword, of rebels standing together, it spread everywhere, inside royal courts, inside slave camps, inside houses where no one had ever spoken back. The galaxy watched, and something began to shake. Thalara turned to Daniel. You changed everything. No, he said. We changed it together, but the price will be high. She warned. Then we pay it, he answered with full hearts. As the tower burned behind them, they walked down to the rebels. Now a growing army. Some called out Daniel's name, others bowed to Thalara, some stood in silence, but none looked away because they had seen something no one could unsee. A small one who dared, and a noble who listened. Years had passed since the last battle, but the memory of that day still lived in the air. Children ran through the central plaza of the new Union capital, their laughter echoing between the tall white buildings. Skycraft moved silently above them. Clean, unarmed, free. In the middle of the plaza stood a statue made of dark stone, and Silver, a small man, stood on one side, one hand holding a wrench, the other holding a broken wire. His eyes looked up toward the sky. Beside him stood a tall woman, armor on one shoulder, no crown on her head, but pride in her stance. They stood back to back, looking in opposite directions, but held together in purpose. In the base of the statue, only one sentence was carved, too small for their world, but big enough to change it. The people called it the mechanics. Monumentarists came from every system to see it. School groups visited every week. Pilots saluted as they passed overhead, but most of all, it had become a place of quiet strength. Thalara often came alone, no guards, no banners, just silence. Would sit on the bench nearby, her robe plain, her face calm. Sometimes she would close her eyes and remember the sound of his voice, not the voice from the broadcasts, not the one the galaxy knew. The quiet voice, the tired one, the voice that once said, if I fall, make it count. She never forgot. After the war, she had been offered a throne, a crown, a seat in the new High Council. She refused them all. Instead, she helped build schools, hospitals, repair stations. Said real strength does not sit above, it walks. Besadeno. One knew where Daniel had gone. After the last message, some believed he died. When the tower burned, some said he escaped into deep space. Others believed he was still out there watching. Thalara never confirmed or denied. On evening, a young girl approached her at the monument. Are you the lady in the statue? She asked. Thalara smiled. Yes. The girl looked up at the stone version of Daniel. Was he real? She asked. Very real, Thalara answered. Was he a soldier? The girl asked again. No, she replied. He was something harder. He was a mechanic and a thinker and a rebel. Did he fight? The girl's eyes were wide eyes, but not always with weapons. Then how did he win? The child asked. Thalara looked at the sky. He listened, and he dared to be different. The girl nodded slowly. I want to be like him. Thalara placed her hand on the girl's shoulder. Then speak. When it's hard, stand. When others fall, and never let your size decide your worth. Girl ran back to her group, leaving Thalara alone again. She looked back at the statue, her eyes soft but steady. Just then a message came through her personal device, encrypted. No name, no voice, just words. System flare rising on Moon X7, power lines failing, no workers available. Should I go? She read it twice. The code was one only to people ever use him. And Hirsch typed back, if the wires are broken, fix them. If the people are afraid, stand with them. And if no one believes you, try anyway. She closed the device and smiled. Somewhere in some forgotten part of the galaxy, he was still working, still building, still changing. What they said could not be changed. He had no title, no rank, no army, but he had something stronger, hope and courage wrapped in small hands, carrying tools, not flags. As the sun set behind the statue, its shadow stretched long across the plaza, reaching like his story, forever unfinished, forever alive.